Cheers, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I am Dave Brown, and this is the New Populist. Today, I want to talk about my home state of Maryland. Now, Maryland is a fairly liberal state. We generally vote 70-30, 65-35 in national elections for Democrats. Now, at the state level, we do occasionally vote for a Republican governor. We just had Republican Larry Hogan serve 2 terms, so it does happen. Although being a Republican in a Democrat state, we're not talking about far-right conservatives. We're talking about somebody who was fairly moderate. And in red parts of the state, he did have a nickname, Liberal Larry. So that tells you all you need to know. But all things considered, he was okay. And certainly he was better than the alternatives. Now, unfortunately, we just got ourselves a new governor, Democrat Wes Moore, who seems to want to turn Maryland into California with regards to issues of LGBTQ and transgenderism. Over the last couple of weeks, a lot of things have been happening within the state, with the schools, with the legislature. And I want to go over them because it shows you how far we are lurching to the left and embracing some really radical ideas that even among some liberals are controversial. So I want to start with the Montgomery County public school system because Montgomery County is, I think, population-wise, the biggest county in Maryland, and certainly it is very liberal. But there was a recent controversy because of the books they were reading in classrooms. And this article comes from Fox News, our local affiliate. Montgomery County Public Schools revises policy on LGBTQ-friendly books. It says third grade parents at Damascus Elementary School became frustrated when they found out their kids were being read an LGBTQ inclusive book. Some allegedly began pulling their children out of the class. The book, Uncle Bobby's Wedding, is about a niece concerned she was going to lose her favorite uncle if he got married. The niece comes to learn she is not losing a family member, but gaining one. The book also includes the topic of same-sex marriage as Uncle Bobby marries another man. Now, should they be teaching this stuff in school to third graders? Personally, I remember back to when I was in third grade, this wasn't discussed at all, in either direction. We learned to read, we learned to write, we learned history, social studies, and then we went outside and played tag. But for some reason, in today's world, they want to teach these children at a young age these themes that some people think is inappropriate for their age. And again, I'm not saying kids shouldn't learn about this, but 8-year-olds, do they really need to learn about the gay weddings? I think if a parent wants their kid to know about that, the parent can talk to their kid about that. We don't need teachers to do that. Now, the problem here with this story is that there was a policy where they would tell parents about, hey, we're going to teach certain subjects, so you know about it if you have a problem with it. But recently they sent out an email saying that in the future, teachers will not send home letters to inform families when inclusive books are read in the future. So if you've been on that Libs of TikTok account, you have a lot of these crazy purple, green hair, non-binary, non-whatever teachers bragging about teaching their young children about certain topics. Apparently here in Montgomery County, if they pull certain books off the shelf, inclusive books, because remember, it's always a positive, you won't know about it until your kid comes home and goes, I was reading a story about 2 guys kissing each other. And then you'll find out that the teacher was teaching reading these books in school. And again, these aren't high school or even middle school. These are, third graders. So they start very young. And this is the bigger issue, because on the right, we talk about this issue of grooming that infuriates the left. And what are we saying when we say grooming? We are saying that children are being coached, are being indoctrinated with certain things when they're young and impressionable, and that really can change their entire viewpoint on society and life in general, and that can push them into certain directions. Now, that is taboo to say on the left. You cannot say that you can indoctrinate a 4-year-old to have certain thoughts concerning their gender, for example. And so the question becomes, why are kids, it seems, gravitating toward being transgendered or non-binary? Because according to recent studies, 5% of adults and children in the United States, people under the age of 30, now identify with being non-binary or transgendered. 5%. Now, where is this coming from? Why magically now are we having all these kids not know what gender they are, not like their gender, or think it should be different? And I would argue, and perhaps you would too, that this is grooming or indoctrination, taking young children who are impressionable and pushing ideas into their heads and leading them along. And what's concerning to you about this is that there was a recent study, it showed up in the Daily Mail, saying that, let me pull it up here, America's strong-arming gender clinics revealed most parents of trans kids say that they were pressured into transitioning their child even when it left them worse off. So we're seeing evidence that these transgender children are not happy with their new state. It's not making them better off accordingly to the parents. Now, I dug a little deeper and I pulled the actual study that the Daily Mail was referencing, and I found this tidbit here, which should be a concern for any parent. And it says, one statistically robust finding was both disturbing and seemingly important. Youths with a history of mental health issues were especially likely to have taken steps to socially and medically transition. This relationship held even after statistically adjusting for likely confounders. The finding is concerning because youth with mental health issues may be especially likely to lack judgment necessary to make these important, and in the case of medical transition, permanent decisions. The findings support the worries of parents whose preferences differ from their gender dysphoric children. It is consistent with another finding of the study that parents believe gender clinicians and clinics pressure the families toward transition. The findings particularly concerning given that parents tended to rate their children as worse off after transition. Now, is this a shock to any of us that the youths that were transitioning were more likely to have a history of mental health issues? And that again is taboo. You cannot say that people who are transgendered have mental health issues, or perhaps that the genesis of their urge to transgender is due to a mental health issue. And so now we have all these kids, they're being taught things in school by these teachers, some of them who are pretty radical, who they won't tell the parents what they're teaching. They have mental health issues. They got their TikTok, social media, all these inputs rattling their brains around. And then they believe, oh, I'm non-gender binary or this or that. I can't even remember the terms. And they want to be the other sex and in some cases start to transition medically. And this is, again, where my biggest issue comes, is not just the issue of transgenderism. It's with medical intervention for children. Now, I mentioned that Maryland was lurching to the left, or further to the left. And so recently we had the governor proclaim an International Transgender Day of Visibility in Maryland. Apparently people who are transgendered aren't getting enough attention and they need some more visibility. I would argue otherwise. There's plenty of visibility out there for transgenders people these days. In fact, you can't avoid it. But going past that, there was a law passed in Maryland at the same time. It's called the Trans Health Equity Act. And what would this law do? According to the text of this law, it would make using public funds, Medicare, Medicaid, It would offer gender-affirming treatments that include hormone therapy, hormone blockers, and puberty blockers. So the state of Maryland will now be using taxpayer dollars to medically intervene with children to prevent their puberty or to give them hormones. Now, based on the fact that we just saw that study talking about the correlation with mental health issues, the state of Maryland will now do this to children, and we, the taxpayer in Maryland, we will pay for it. And in my opinion, and you can disagree with this, I believe any hormone treatments, puberty blockers for children, adolescents, 6, 7, 8 years old is 100% child abuse. The effects of these drugs are for a lifetime. Sometimes they cause infertility. They cause problems with their bone structure not developing correctly. All sorts of issues when you intervene with a child's development and you stop them from having puberty, or you give them hormones if they're a girl to become masculinized. The effects are, again, permanent. And oftentimes these kids, when they get older, as it turns out, they're not happier. And the suicide rate for these individuals is really high, and it's very, very sad. And to this issue of children being trans, I recently read a story about Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's daughter, who was dressing as a boy when she was younger. Thought she was a boy, or I'm not sure exactly how they describe it. But after she hit puberty, she had a change of heart and realized, oh no, I like being a girl. And she started wearing dresses again and dressing like a girl, and a very lovely, pretty young lady. Just think what would have happened if those parents had given her drugs to masculinize her at the age of 6 or 7. Where would she be at right now if she at 16 or 17 realized, oh wait, I want to be a girl. That was just a weird phase I was going through. But now I've been given these drugs and I kind of look like a dude, and I've destroyed my entire development as a female by taking these drugs at a young age. Again, that's why I think this intervention at this age is child abuse, especially considering the mental health factor, especially considering the school system and the society in general that is putting these ideas in the children's heads and creating all this doubt and all this confusion for these kids who, for a lot of weird reasons, think certain things that are ridiculous. There's a reason why kids don't vote. There's a reason why you can't drink till you're 21. And as they say, your brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. So sad to see here in Maryland. We are turning into California, and we are all now paying for children to be mutilated by the state. It is our obligation as adults within a society to protect children. If we cannot do that, then we have failed as adults and we have failed as a society. So this should be our line in the sand. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.